Daf Yomi, Tractate Bava Batra, page 75b. Top of the page, with the words V'kanasti Misa al Adam Harishon. We're in the middle of I got it to about the king of Tyre, Ezekiel 28, where God said that he gave him the faculties of going to the bathroom to show he was a human, not God. Okay, and we start at the top of the page here with the words V'kanasti Misa al Adam Harishon, and I decreed death on Adam, the first man, to demonstrate that he was human and not a God. Ma'avi al mikro marav maru Yochanan loy Yerushalayim shelo elam hazeh Yerushalayim shelo elam habo Yerushalayim shelo elam hazeh kol loy tzelo letoile shelo elam habo in oilin ela hamuzmanin lo. The Gemara returns to the aforementioned verse, and the Lord will create over the whole habitation of Mount Zion and over those who are invited to it a cloud and smoke by day. Isaiah 4 verse 5. What is the meaning of the phrase and over those who are invited to it? Rabba says that Rabbi Yochanan says Jerusalem of the world to come. Just let me make a comment here. This is kind of like maybe my specialty of connecting the daf with the times and things that happen, and it goes in line with people who like to connect things in the parsha. Well, I also like to connect things in the Daf Yomi, and something very interesting happened recently. I recently ate by someone's house, and they had mentioned a place, I think it was in Buffalo Heights, Buffalo Grove or something in Illinois, and there was a conservative rabbi, a woman rabbi, and she had the title of Rabbah. She's not a Rebbitzin, she's not a rabbi, she's just Rabbah. And I find it so fascinating that it's smack in the middle of a very famous or well-known string of stories concerning Rabbah Bar Chana. Not to compare the two, because one's a woman rabbi and one is, sagely an Amora in the Talmud. However, it's the same sound, it's the same word, Rabbah. So this rabbi, this woman rabbi, wanted to be called Rabbah, and we're talking all about Rabbah in most of the daf, 73, 74, 75. It's just filled with, it's replete with just Rabbahs. I mean, the first was just Rabbah, which I would be assumed is Rabbah Bar Nachmani, but then you have Rabbah Bar Chana throughout 74, and then you have now, and Rabbah now again shows up. So it's interesting how these events correlated. At any rate, continuing further, Rabbah says, Rabbi Yochanan says, the Jerusalem of the world to come is not like Jerusalem of this world. With regard to Jerusalem of this world, anyone who wants to ascend can ascend. With regard to Jerusalem of the world to come, only those who are invited can ascend. Again, Rabbah says in the Rabbi Yochanan, Atidin tzadikim shinikohen al shmoy shel Kadosh Baruch Hu שנאמר, כל הנקרא בשמי לכבודי ברסיב, יצרתי ואף עשיתיו. ויאמר שמואל בר נחמני, אמר רבי יוחנן, שלוש נקרא על שמו של הקדוש ברוך הוא, ואלו הן צדיקים ומשיח וירושלים. This is interesting that the Mashiach is called by the name of Hashem. Tzadikim u'Mashiach, but they make it special to say the Mashiach. Wow. Rabbah says, Rabbi Yochanan says, the future generations righteous will be called by the holy name, by the name of the Holy One, blessed be He, as it is stated, everyone that is called by my name, and whom I have created for my glory. I have formed him, yes, I have made him. Isaiah 43:7. This indicates that one who was created by God and causes him glory is called by his name. And Rabbi Shmuel Bar Nachmani says that Rabbi Yochanan says the three were called by the name of the Holy One, blessed be He. And they are the righteous and the Messiah and Jerusalem. Tzadikim al Demaran. With regard to the righteous, this is what we just said. Mashiach tichsiv v'zeh shemo asher yikrau Hashem tzidkenu. Steht in Jeremiah 23:6. with regard to the Messiah is written, and this is his name, whereby he shall be called, the Lord our righteousness. The Messiah is the Lord our righteousness. He's called that. Jeremiah 23:6. With regard to Jerusalem, this is as it is written, it shall be 18,000 reeds round about, and the name of the city from that day shall be, the Lord is there. Shama. Ezekiel 48:35. Do not read the word as there, rather read it as the Lord has its name, Shema, not Shama, but Shema. Rabbi Elazar says, in the future the righteous will have the name holy recited before them, as one recites before the Holy One, blessed be He. As it is stated, and it shall come to pass, that he who is left in Zion, and he who remains in Jerusalem shall be called holy. Isaiah 4:3. בימי רמב"ם רבי יוחנן, עתיד הקדוש ברוך הוא להגביה את ירושלים 3 פרסאות למעלה, שנאמר ורמה וישבה תחתיה. מהי תחתיה? כתחתיה. ומהי דהי תחתיה? תרתה פרסי הוויה. אמר רבא, אמר לי יהוא סבא, לדידי חזי לי ירושלים, כמה הייתה ותלתה פרסי הוויה. And Rabbah says, Rabbi Yochanan says, in the future the Holy One, blessed be He, will raise Jerusalem 3 parasangs upward, as it is stated, and it shall be lifted up and inhabited in its place. Zechariah 14:10. What is the meaning of the phrase in its place? It means equivalent to its place. Jerusalem will be raised to a height whose measure in parasangs corresponds to the measure of its area in square parasangs. Parsaot. The Gemara asks, and from where is it derived that the place of Jerusalem was an area of 3 square parasangs? Rabbah said that a certain elder said to me, I saw the initial Jerusalem when it was still extant, and its area was 3 square parasangs. B'Shem Tomer yesh sar la'alod. The Gemara continues to discuss the statement of Yochanan. Unless you say that there is discomfort in ascending to a place so high, Talmud loimal mi ele ke'av te'u fenha uchayonim el arubotehem. Omarav papa shmamina ha'evo terasa parsi midele. Okay, the verse states a prophecy depicting the return of Jewish people to Jerusalem. Who are these that fly as a cloud and as the doves to their coats? Isaiah 60 verse 8. This indicates that they can easily ascend to Jerusalem as though they were clouds or doves. Rav Papa said initially, one can learn from that statement that this cloud mentioned in the verse is 3 parasangs high, and it reaches Jerusalem, which will be raised 3 parasangs. Amar b'chanina bar Papa, ביקש הקדוש ברוך הוא לתת את ירושלים במידה, שנאמר ואומר נא אתה הולך ויאמר אלי למוד את ירושלים לראות כמה רחבה וכמה ארכה. Rabbi Chanina bar Papa says, the Holy One, blessed be He, wished to give a set measure for Jerusalem as it is stated in the prophecy in Zechariah, and I lifted up my eyes and saw, and behold, a man with a measuring line in his hand. Then I said, where are you going? And he said to me, to measure Jerusalem, to see what is its breadth and what is its length. Zechariah 2, 5 and 6. The ministering angel said before the Holy One, blessed be He, Master of the universe. You have created many cities in your world for the nations of the world. Yerushalayim sheshimcha betocha umikdashcha betocha v'tzadikim betocha ata noten ba midah. Miyav yomer elav ratz diber hanahar halaz lemor parazot teshev Yerushalayim berov adam uvehema betocha. The ministering angel said before the Holy One, blessed be He, Master of the universe, you have created many cities in your world for the nations of the world, and you did not give the measure of their length or the measure of their width. In other words, they are not limited by any set measure, but expand as they develop. With regard to Jerusalem, which has your name in it, and your temple in it, and your righteous people in it, will you give a measure? Immediately, and behold, the angel that spoke with me went forth, and another angel went out to meet him, and said, Run, speak to this young man, saying, Jerusalem shall be inhabited without walls, for the multitude of men and cattle with it. Zechariah 2:7, verse 8. Does that contradict the fact that they was going to measure Jerusalem? He was going to measure. What's the point of going to measure it if you're not going to measure it anymore? But just from the little comments from the peanut gallery is that I don't see why it's a limitation. If God measures Jerusalem, then it's more unlimited than any other unlimited place. If God wants to put a measure to Jerusalem and limit it, then those limits are the holiest limits, and it's not necessarily contradicting the fact that other cities aren't measured and they can expand. That's only one way of seeing it. You can also see it that to be measured is the holiest thing. It's set limits. There's different ways you can see it. There are very specific limits in the measurements. If you go through all the psukim of, in Truma, Tetzaveh, or Pekude, like all those parts of the Mishkan, Vayakov Pekude, and etc. There's plenty of exact measurements. It doesn't mean that they're limited. It means that these limitations are specifications. These are... Anyway, further on, I think you got the point. On Reish Lakish, see the Kodesh Baruch Hu, Yosef al Yerushalayim, Elef Tef Ginot, Elef Kefel Magdalim, Elef Tzui Biraniot, Elef Ushne Shilo Totafraot, וכל אחת ויחד הוויה כציפורי ושלוותה. Reish Lakish says, the future, the Holy One, blessed be He, will add to Jerusalem 1,000 times the numerical value of Tifaf, of gardens, 1,000 times the numerical value of Kefel, of towers, 1,000 times the value of Litzoya, of fortifications, and 1,002 times the value of Shiloh, of small houses. And each and every one of these additions will be like the great city of Tzipori in all of its prosperity. Were we holding on time? Tanya אני ראיתי ציפורי ושלוותה והיו בה 180,000 שווקים של מוכרי ציקי קדרה. The Gemara clarifies the size of the city of Tzipori. It is taught in Braita. Then Rabbi Yossi said, I saw Tzipori in its prosperity, and there were 180,000 markets of sellers of meat, sauces, in it. 180,000 markets of sellers of meat sauces. That's a lot of markets. On this basis, one can estimate the future size of Jerusalem. והצלעות צלע 30 פעמים, מה 30 פעמים, אמר רבי לוי, אמר רב פאפי, משום רבי יהושע דיסקיני, אם שלוש ירושלים הם כל אחס ויחס יש בה 30 דוירים למעלה, אם 30 ירושלים הן כל אחס ויחס יש בה 3 דוירים למעלה. In a similar manner, the Gemara interprets the verse, and the side chambers were over one over another 3 and 30 times. Ezekiel 41:6. What is the meaning of 3 and 30 times? Rabbi Levi says that Rabbi Papi says in the name of Rabbi Yehoshua of Sikinei, if in the future Jerusalem will be triple in size so that it occupies 3 times its former area, and each and every dwelling will contain 30 stories upward, then each and every dwelling will contain 30 stories upward. If the area of Jerusalem will be multiplied by 30, each and every dwelling will contain 3 stories above every house. And I think because of time, because of content, we're going to do part 2. We're gonna do a part 2 here because we're, yeah.